Hello, Helene.
Hello.
Vilken härlig dag.
Oh, hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm very well, very well. Are you in Sweden?
Yes, I live in south of Sweden in Ystad.
Ah, lovely.
You seen the Wallander detective novels or films?
Oh, yeah, I have. Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's my hometown.
Ah, Wallander. Yeah. Very good. Well, today it's just you and me. So wonderful that we just get to spend a bit of time with each other.
Yeah. Yes,
Sorry.
I'm new to LSP.
Perfect.
Really interesting what you're doing, because I realize online is where I need to be. And
Yeah.
I've already tried out. There was, I took a workshop from Wellbeing that was presenting in Billund and used it and tried it, and it works really fine. But then I don't know anything else about doing LSP online.
Yeah. Well, I'm here today just to answer any questions you have. So ask me anything you want and I will do my best to answer.
Yeah, that is how I can think about dividing the pieces together and how to introduce LSP to those who's not used to it, and what kind of subject is perhaps easiest to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's useful to think of Lego Serious Play as just being an enhanced communication tool. It's kind of like a post-it note. I mean, a post-it note where we write a little note on a sticky thing can be used in almost any situation or any setting.
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful for us to think that Lego Serious Play is just simply an enhanced communication tool.
Yeah.
What's enhanced about it is when somebody builds a Lego model. Let me just put my little stage here. When somebody builds a Lego model, they're able to activate 3 modes of communication. So they can talk about the model that they've built. I can say, here's a little person running. I can direct your attention, your eyes, towards the part of the model. I could say, look, here is like, this is like a totem pole, like a Native American Indian totem pole. And your eyes, you listen with your eyes. And when I kind of animate the models, if I sort of put this little running person with their big pink feet on the model, I'm using kinesthetic communication. So in Lego Serious Play, we use 3 modes of communication: auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. And I think that that's one of its real strengths as a method. It can create sort of much, particularly much better listening. People listen better when a story is told of a Lego model. And therefore you can use it in almost any setting you could imagine, from business workshops to couples therapy to Bible study to PhD. It's just a communication tool. Yeah. That's how I see it anyway.
I agree. It's really good. I've been doing some dynamic pedagogy before. Have you heard of that concept?
No, I haven't actually. I know what pedagogy is. I don't know what dynamic pedagogy is.
That is to use, like, you use your body, or you create art, or you create poems or theater, but it's within a subject, and you learn through sharing with others. So it's no teacher whatsoever that tells you what is the outcome. You have to figure it out by yourself by doing all this stuff. So it could be, for example, if you look from inside and out, while you are in a forest and just look behind the trees, and then you concentrate on the trees near you, and then you just have thoughts and things like that, and you share.
Yeah.
I realized when I was in Billund and you did this, the models, and you build the big board, that it's nearly the same. You share.
Yeah, I saw the photographs on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
So that you had the beautiful shared model on the big grey base plate.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is when people build with their hands, they're sort of thinking with their brains, but they're also thinking with their hands. Exactly. And it's kind of an embodied process, rather than just the intellectual people sitting there. Well, I think it's a bit like this, which is a far less you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Lego Serious Play is an embodied and kinesthetic process. And I think that, well, there's no thinking about it. It's when you build with your fingers, you access other parts of your brain.
Yeah.
So you're using more of yourself.
Yeah. I heard myself saying once that I don't know what to build, but I just start and let my fingers start working.
Do you know, funnily enough, there is something called the Lego Serious Play etiquette. When the open source guide was created, the Lego Serious Play etiquette says, think with your hands.
Yeah.
Trust your hands. And if, as a facilitator, we're in a workshop and you've set a question, you say, build a model of a negative behavior you've seen in this team. If you see somebody sitting there going, you say to them, just trust your hands. Just begin to build and see what story emerges, just as children do. Children don't sit there and plan a design in their head before they start to build. They just get the bricks and start to plug them together. So that sort of thinking with the hands is another very well understood concept in Lego Serious Play.
Yeah, I agree. But how to use all this online then? Because when I just tried a small one when you build with this foundation material, but then it seems like to be one-on-one. It's hard to build a community thingy, so it's kind of limited to that.
Well, do you know, I mean, so COVID comes along in March, and we can't physically meet. And I have to be honest with you, Helene, if you had asked me in January, can you facilitate Lego Serious Play online? Can you do shared model building online? I would have said no, it's not possible. And then COVID comes along and we can't physically meet. So myself and a group of other people set our biases to one side and we sort of said, well, what is possible? So, I mean, online Lego Serious Play is actually as good as, and in some ways better than face-to-face. So individual models is not really much different to face-to-face. People build a model and they present it on a stage. The setup is really important. People need to be able to present their models in a way that people can see them, so I think what we always do is a little bit of one-to-one coaching with all of our clients before we run a meeting or a training. So we teach people how to set their space up. So with individual model building, it's not really much different, provided we have good resolution to face-to-face Lego Serious Play. With shared model building, when we get people to work together like you did in Billund, let's think about how shared models face-to-face are made. So the first thing that happens in a shared model, let me just get a base plate, is somebody's built an individual model. And what they'll do is they'll sort of say from their individual model, well, look, I've got this kind of leader with their big pink boots on, and they pull it off their individual model and they place it on the shared model, right? That's the way it works face-to-face.
Yeah, it is.
So what we do online is we introduce a stage of the process where after the individual models have been built, we ask the participants to disaggregate them, separate the individual models into the key ideas. We then photograph each of those key ideas and upload them to a mural, a digital whiteboard, if you like. The facilitator will then rebuild all of those components. Let me see if I can find an image of this for you.
Oh, great.
So if I was facilitating an online Lego Serious Play workshop, if I had 8 people, they would disaggregate the models and then I would rebuild all of the components. Let me show you a photograph of this. Let's quickly find a slide. So here we are. Let me share the screen with you. Share the screen. So here's an example of the individual models on the left-hand side, disaggregated into their key ideas. Right? I will then rebuild each and every one of these components. Then what we do in the online Lego Serious Play shared model building is I become what we call the magic hands.
Oh, so then you have the physical figures in front of you on the board, and you move around as they wish.
Exactly. So I would go to the group in turn, and I would say, okay, Helene, let me put an idea on the board for you. You know, what would you like me to place on this board? And you would sort of say, well, I'd quite like you to take the totem pole. And I'd say, okay, so here's the totem pole, which means customer centricity or whatever it means. And I'd say, where would you like me to place this on the board? And you say, I want it to be in the north. And I put it here, like, you want it to be like here in the north? You say, yes, that's good for me. Then I'll come to the next person. Let me share another screen with you. We have another technique that we call build along. So the facilitator is the magic hands and builds the master model. And you can see on this slide here that we can also have everyone else with a base plate replicating the master model.
Okay.
So everyone builds a shared model at the same time. Does that make sense?
You have the same, yeah. So they are building from the mural, what you call it, from the board.
Well, in this case, the facilitator was Andrew. So this is Andrew. He's the facilitator. He's building the master model, and the other participants are copying him.
Yeah.
So they are replicating the master model that he is building. And actually, that's not so
do you think that we work with several figures, or is it then for a minimum of figures if you have a master builder?
Are you talking about Lego components or participants?
Components.
No, I mean, typically, if I go back to the mural that I shared with you earlier, let me just find that again. Let's have a look at the number of components here. So on this mural, where is it?
Don't know.
Let me find it. Here it is. Right, so let me share this screen with you again. In this example, there were 6 workshop participants. Each of them had more or less 3 components.
Yeah.
The person in green, she had 4 components. So she had 4 post-it notes. Sometimes people have even 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And often the same component is duplicated. Somebody has built the same idea using slightly different bricks. So we use this kind of the left-hand side of the mural as the raw material for the shared model. And you can see on the photograph on the right-hand side, here is the finished shared model, a photograph of the finished shared model with detailed shots of each of the components described. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Are you then using the small bag, this only that one, or you have more?
Yeah, so what we do, so this is the Windows kit.
Yeah.
So what we do is we send 6 Windows kits and 1 base plate to every person in a small shared model build workshop. If it's an individual model workshop, we can just send literally 1 bag of Windows bricks.
Yeah.
What that means, did you cover in Billund bricks as metaphors?
Can you give me an example?
So let me take this green brick here. So this is just a 2-stud by 2-stud green brick.
Yeah.
And if we were to make this brick as a metaphor for something, what could it be if it was a metaphor?
Yeah, it could be whatever. It could be a summer day.
Could be a summer day, could be broccoli, could be a green car, could be democracy with the 4 equal-sized studs, could be the environmental movement. So what's really important when we have a simple collection of bricks is to teach people the skills to use the bricks metaphorically. I think the other thing that's important with simple arrangements of bricks is to make sure that the facilitator is facilitating recaps for understanding so that people can remember. Now, here's one of the areas where online Lego Serious Play in some ways is better than face-to-face. So for instance, we have a mural with all of the components summarized on a digital sticky note, so people can refer back to the mural if they've forgotten what a component means.
Yeah, that's true. So you agree on the meaning, and then you write the meaning of the different bricks.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Mm.
I mean, here's the other massive advantage of online. This is one of online's superpowers that face-to-face can't do. We've had workshops and trainings where we've had people from Singapore, South Korea, North America, New Zealand, all on the same call. Not one carbon air mile spent.
That's true. It's terrific, and you save so much time and as well, time, money, and the environmental stuff.
So I think that online Lego Serious Play, even if we all got vaccinated and COVID went away, online Lego Serious Play will remain a valid technique, particularly for international, multinational groups where people work in different countries. The other thing that you can do, which is really interesting, we did a training with a branch of the US military.
Yeah.
And what they did was they used the magic hands when they were physically present in the same room. And what that meant was only one pair of fingers touched the bricks. So it was kind of COVID safe. You can use the online techniques in a face-to-face setting, and only one pair of hands actually touches the bricks.
Tell me, what did they had some gloves on them so you could feel and touch?
No, so they started with the individual model, sitting around the table.
Yeah.
They, person one built a model, two built a model, three built a model. Then they took a break. The facilitator rebuilt all of the models. So now the facilitator has a base plate, blank base plate, with the models around the outside that he has rebuilt. So only the facilitator has touched these bricks. And then he uses the magic hands. People sort of say, please put, the staff member, in the south, like that. Do you see what I mean? So you can use the magic hands process in a face-to-face setting.
But technically, to have this, to be facilitator, you have to have a proper break to build all the pieces.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, our process is that once the individual models have been disaggregated, photographed, uploaded to Mural, we will take a short break.
Yeah.
A skilled facilitator can rebuild all of the components, like the example that I've showed to you, 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. I'm not there.
Yeah. I mean, actually, a really skilled facilitator can rebuild the components during the first share of the individual models. So even as somebody is talking about their model, the facilitator can be beginning to rebuild those components. Of course.
They just put them together where you're not seeing. Yeah.
And, once you're sort of competent with the bricks, you can assemble the sub-assemblies very, very quickly.
Yeah.
By the way, I've written about all of these techniques in our new book.
I know, I've seen it. I've been looking into it a little bit on the web where you could see what's in the book. I need to buy it. Well done. But then you are really quick on it. You must be really quick on getting the idea and doing the...
Yeah, we really were. I mean, funnily enough, I flew to America on March the 13th to go and run a training there. And then I had to turn around at the airport and come home very quickly because of the changing COVID situation. And I don't remember the exact timing, but before the end of March, we ran our first experiments with online Lego Serious Play. So I think the real kind of breakthroughs came for us in March and April. During May and June, we continued to develop and refine the techniques. And then the book was written mostly in September and October.
Well done. Well done.
And, we wanted to get it out there because I think this set of resources is useful to particularly already trained Lego Serious Play facilitators. So people who already have the basics, the idea is this book will help them get online.
I guess so. I still in this original manual to have a grip on it, to try out some of it. But funny, I discussed with Robert on when I did my certification.
Yeah.
About online, but he was not that convinced about it until what level you can use it. But perhaps he's changed his mind now.
Yeah, I mean, so I also sort of heard, you know, Robert being very certain that online Lego Serious Play wasn't possible. And actually, I understand that view, because I thought exactly the same. And then I think the difference is I put my biases to one side, and I just sort of said, well, let's see what's possible.
Yeah, I think so. Like a true entrepreneur, so to speak.
I think, I mean, actually, I don't think it was an entrepreneurial thing that drove me. It was just a curiosity. It's like, you know, well, what is possible? I mean, you know, it was obvious back in March that COVID was a bad thing. That those of us, you know, who facilitate couldn't facilitate face to face. So I think me and quite a few others. I mean, I don't remember the exact number, but on the acknowledgements page, I think we had about 200 people involved in developing these techniques. And the acknowledgements page has got absolutely loads and loads and loads and loads of names on it. So this
Swedish people in there.
Say again?
Is there any Swedish people in there?
Yes, absolutely. So I don't remember the exact names, but there are definitely some Swedish people that helped us with the tests and subsequently helped us through the training. And lots of Germans too. My colleague Jens was really central to this book. Yeah, I think probably Jens was the entrepreneur in our partnership. He was the one driving, kind of saying, come on, let's see what's possible. Yeah. And his enthusiasm made a huge difference. So that's the reason his name is on the front cover of the book, you know, because Jens was so key to the project.
Well, I come from a IT project management background, where I also did, I trained myself to be a certified coach. Yeah. And coach individuals and teams. So my idea is to bring the Lego into the coaching session, and also to have virtual teams out there. I've been running projects within IKEA, so the world was my field of work. Yeah. It seems to be somewhere there to connect to the reality, what we are discussing. If you're discussing projects and how will it work to work as a team. Also to prototype, I guess you can prototype what you're doing in to find loopholes or risks and mitigation thingy. Yeah. But then I came into this coaching and also well-being as a person, and how you can work individual with the small kits to use it for. So it's a really open book, everything here. Yeah.
I think, I mean, what we often say in our training is that the preparation and design stage is the key. Success is determined in the planning and design of a workshop. The facilitation techniques is kind of one of the easy bits, I think. I mean, once it's a bit like driving a car. You know, when you first learn to change gear, it's really complicated. You've got to get the clutch pedal sorted, and you've got to move lots of things at the same time. Once you've got the facilitation techniques down, I think that's relatively easy.
I guess so.
I think the difficult bit, or the place where success is determined, is in the planning and prep. And that is just such an important part of the process.
So, and the planning is to really build the scenario and try out and make sure it's there.
Yeah, I mean, in our sort of our advocacy is the most important part of planning is to define a really clear set of objectives. That is the North Star of any workshop. If we don't know what we're trying to achieve, how will we know what process to implement? So the number one job is to be clear on the objectives. Once we know what the objectives are, we can then use those objectives to design a workshop process. And within the workshop process, we can then design some very specific build questions to help the group explore a particular topic. And actually in our training, we actually say, you know, this kind of 4-step process, a facilitator will set a challenge, everyone will build, everyone will share, reflection. We think that the 4th stage, the reflection stage, is the most important stage.
That is where the learning will happen.
Absolutely. And therefore, the reflection questions are just as important as the build questions, arguably more important. So in my planning, I probably spend more time designing reflection questions than I do designing build questions.
Well, what kind of a what could a good reflection question be?
It depends on the objective.
Oh, of course. Is the sky blue or the sun?
So let me share with you another quick model. So in our second book, we sort of said that the preparation stage has got 4 components to it. Establish clear objectives, design good build questions, create reflection questions, and then check that the logic delivers.
Yeah.
So it's all very well having a good objective, but if the build question doesn't explore the objective, it's the wrong build question.
Yeah.
It's all very good having some great reflection questions, but if they don't help achieve the objective, they're the wrong ones. So therefore, check that the logic delivers. This is the second book that we wrote. I don't know if you've come across it. It's called Mastering the Legacy.
Can you just send me a package
of
the books I need to have?
I'll send you a link. You can either buy books from Amazon or download.
I will do that. But then I have another one then. What was it? About this share models and questions. And the objectives. What was it? It was also when we built, when Robert said it's no use to build a model for when it's good or the best scenario. It's much better to work on the uglier side, build the worst day of your life or when it's not working, because then you open up more. And I had done some reflection on that myself. And if I do coaching, that is a question I try to see the ugly side, if I can say so, the difficult side. But it's to start with something nice and comfortable and smooth the journey. But how do you do? How do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's not a clear-cut case. I think it's context specific. So, for instance, if I was working with a team who were in a low trust breakdown situation, asking them to build a model of the worst day of their life would be the wrong thing to do. They might build a model of their work day yesterday, in which case you start the workshop in a very negative mode. If you were with that kind of group, if you said build a model of your dream holiday, that is a upbeat. So it really depends upon the group. If you were working with a mature, confident, strong group where there weren't insecurities, the negative questions, the darker side, is much, much easier to explore. So I think that emotion in build questions is a subtlety. And I think as a general principle, you've got to know what kind of group you're working with. And that should be the guide for whether you go to the sort of the shadow side, which can be really useful in some places. But the shadow side with a group in difficult times, you could blow the workshop out of the water in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I guess so, because that was my reflection as well. What if I open up Pandora's box here?
Imagine you open Pandora's box in the first 20 minutes of a workshop. Suddenly, some massive argument somebody storms out in a
bye, and I can't send them the invoice.
Exactly.
No, that's true.
So Helen, we'd sort of made the fireside chat for half an hour with a little bit of extra time if we needed it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very happy to keep talking, but I just wanted to sort of say I don't want to keep you all Friday evening.
No, it's.
Do you have any other questions that I can try to answer while we're still here?
And no, not right now. I'm going to buy a book, and also I have an experiment going on that we are a group in a network group that is going to work with Lego with me.
Brilliant.
But we have not been able to collect the fair amount of this starter kits, the what you call it, the window exploration.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a picture of minimum of the Lego bricks they will have, and then have to collect from themselves. So we're going to do some freestyling.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
So we print the inventory of the Windows kit.
Yeah.
And we say to people, do your best job to assemble this kind of collection of bricks.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do, I wonder whether I've got a kit here. You could say to everybody, just go to the Lego store and spend €4 on the Unikitty kit.
Unikitty kit.
Yeah. It's got about the same number of bricks as the Windows Exploration kit. So you could just use that.
Yeah, terrific.
Or go to the Lego store and buy a little Friends kit, you know, one of the feminine characters.
Yeah.
So you don't need the Windows kit. There are sort of other kits that you can use.
And still be true to the concept. Are you still within the concept?
Absolutely. Hey, let me tell you a final story. So we ran a training some time ago, and the bricks that we sent to one of the participants did not show up. They were they weren't supposed to come till lunchtime. Let me show you this photograph. Can you see this photo?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's using plastic kitchen clips. This is her dream holiday. So can you see the waves, the blue waves?
Yeah, I can do that.
Can you see the beach? Can you see the sun?
Yeah.
You can do Lego Serious Play without even Lego bricks.
Then I need to show you something.
That
I use when I do my coaching. I was at the museum, what do you call it, Maritime? Yeah. And they have all these animals. Yeah. Like this.
Perfect.
And they put their scenarios with them, and they have to choose what animal they are, and they build the scenarios. And somehow I always lose one animal because they refuse to give me back.
Really? You know, yesterday when I was on a meeting call, I made a dinosaur out of Windows bricks. So that's my dinosaur. Or maybe it's a giraffe. I'm not quite sure.
Depends on the day, doesn't it?
I suppose it does. Yeah.
Okay, but thank you for spending your Friday afternoon with me.
It's really my pleasure. It's such a nice way to finish the week.
Yeah, isn't it? Thank you.
Talking about Lego is a fun way to finish.
It is.
And I'll send you a link to this video so you can look at the bits if you want to. I'll send you some links to the books.
Yeah, thank you, please.
And there's also a wonderful blog article that a guy called David Gauntlett wrote about using very small Lego kits. So I'll send that to you, and that could also be inspiring.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming to my, look, I've even got my fire. Can you see I've got my fire here?
Oh, nice. I have my Swedish cup of coffee.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming to the Fireside Chat.
Yeah. Will you have this in a regular basis, or how does it work?
I think, well, you know, this is an experiment. I think I'm going to do one a month.
Yeah.
And I think actually one-on-one is lovely. I think a Fireside Chat wouldn't work with 10 people.
No.
I think maybe 2 or 3 maximum. Today, when it was just you, I was really looking forward to it because we can just have a one-on-one. So I think maybe once a month, I'm going to do a Fireside Chat.
Yeah. Okay.
On a Friday.
Wish you a nice weekend. Where are you living in UK, by the way?
I'm living in fairly central London. Do you know Islington? Yeah. So that's Islington, just out there. It's just got dark.
I wish you a nice weekend in London then.
Thank you, Helene. I wish you a nice weekend too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.